When Shrek was first released, it was praised for its satirical and fresh take on classic fairy tale characters, so naturally when it came time to make the sequel, the filmmakers sought to include more classic characters to further populate this world. Among the new additions in Shrek 2 were the fairy godmother, Prince Charming, and Puss in Boots, with the latter becoming an integral part of the franchise, and up there with Donkey as one of its most popular and endearing characters. When Puss in Boots was added to the film, there were naturally discussions about how to depict him. When Antonio Banderas was cast, they decided to model Puss after his performance in The Mask of Zorro. Thus he became a Spanish swashbuckler, always ready to take out his sword and battle whichever opponent he comes across. In Shrek 2, he's hired by the King of Far, Far Away to do away with Shrek, and the film does an excellent job of establishing his personality when he meets the ogre. During those first few minutes, we see how he uses his feline abilities to aid in his fights, although his most iconic moment is the cute look he gives when he wants to persuade someone. While he portrays a tough exterior, we see how quickly he cowers when Shrek shows even the slightest ability to overpower Puss, and he quickly joins their adventure. This is also when we see the beginning of his rivalry with Donkey. The three make for a fun team as they go on this journey, and despite initially coming to kill Shrek, the eventual friendship and genuine interest in helping him is wonderful to see. The character was an immediate success with audiences, and for good reason. Banderas brought plenty of suave to the role, but also a lot of dimensions. He shifts to Shrek's side, not just out of fear for him, but also because he instantly recognizes the job he was hired to do was not exactly a noble one. There are several hilarious scenes involving Puss, with a joke about him carrying catnip being one of the best. However, despite the nature of the Shrek series, there is a sincere admiration for Banderas' portrayal of Zorro, and a desire to bring some of that to Puss. If the filmmakers just wanted to goof on his Zorro, I don't know if he would have been as enthusiastic. The animators also deserve credit for his fighting skills and the little movements he does that enhance the character. And of course, Puss ends the movie with that excellent rendition of Living La Vida Loca performed alongside Donkey. He would return as part of the core Shrek ensemble in the third movie, this time joining in the quest to find Fiona's cousin Arthur. Shrek the Third is generally seen as the weakest movie in the franchise, and I agree with that assessment. A lot of the comedic potential of the characters is not utilized to their fullest, including Puss. In the movie, Merlin accidentally body swaps Puss and Donkey, one of several odd subplots in this rather cluttered movie. While him trying to do his cute face while in Donkey's body is a little amusing, for the most part I don't think the film takes full advantage of the character. The next film, Shrek Forever After, would provide a more interesting use of Puss when Shrek enters an alternate universe where he was never born. Puss is shown to be retired and has gained weight, preferring to just sit around and drink milk. Basically, he becomes Garfield. Even within this alternate universe, he's shown to have a bit of a rivalry with Donkey, and again he tries to help Shrek get together with Fiona and stop Rumpelstiltskin and get the universe back to its rightful place. I think Shrek Forever After is an okay movie, and there were a few funny bits with Puss, although I think the best moments of the film come mainly from its exploration of the Shrek-Fiona relationship. With how incredibly beloved Puss became after his appearance in Shrek 2, it did not take long for DreamWorks to announce a direct-to-video spin-off movie starring the cat. A few years into pre-production, it was decided to change it into a theatrical release, with Chris Miller, who played a major role in developing Puss as head of story on Shrek 2, hired to direct. This movie serves as an origin story for Puss, as Miller wanted to explore how he became this infamous swashbuckler. Appropriately, he is depicted living in a town with a heavy Spanish influence, and is also given a love interest named Kitty Southpaws, voiced by Salma Hayek. The Spanish element even leads to some fun dance sequences. The fairytale aspects remain, with Jack and the Beanstalk serving as a big influence on the story and the quest Puss goes on. He's also joined by Humpty Dumpty, and he's actually the main reason I don't care for this movie. When the movie is focused on the swashbuckling and playing around with Puss's feline attributes, that's fun, but Humpty just got on my nerves a lot of the time, and his presence drags the movie down for me. Nonetheless, Puss in Boots showed he could sustain a feature-length narrative independent of Shrek. In 2015, he got his own show on Netflix titled The Adventures of Puss in Boots. Eric Bauza voiced him and does a spot-on impression of Antonio Banderas, whilst capturing the personality and humor of Puss. I watched a few episodes, and what I saw was enjoyable, an interesting plot of Puss having to protect a town, which he accidentally makes susceptible to outside invaders. It's a creative premise for a series with the various obstacles Puss has to deal with. We also see him interact with the villagers who have their own colorful personalities. The series was developed by Doug Langdale, the creator of The Weekenders and Dave the Barbarian, and you do see a bit of his sensibility peek through with the humor on the show. With the success of the Puss in Boots movie, a sequel was announced, but as you may notice, it took a while to reach screens. The film went through several director and story changes, with Banderas continuing to offer the occasional update and it being taken on and off the release schedule. At one point, the sequel was going to be titled Puss in Boots, 9 Lives and 40 Thieves, hinting that the story of Ali Baba was going to figure in some way. Finally, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was released in 2022, and to say people loved it would be an understatement. The movie was widely acclaimed and considered one of the best movies produced by DreamWorks Animation, as well as an animation triumph in general. People really took to it, which was interesting to see because I just thought it was pretty good. It was an enjoyable animated film with a neat storybook-inspired animation style and themes on facing your own mortality, but I had nowhere near the same enthusiasm as other folks. I liked it and thought it was solid, and that was it. In fact, I watched it again recently to see if maybe my opinion would go up, and I felt about the same. I'm genuinely fascinated why the response to The Last Wish was so passionate, to the point of some even declaring it one of the best animated films ever made. I sound like I'm downing on it too much, but I'm really not. I did like the movie, and I'm not going to call it overrated, because I cannot stand when people do that. That people emotionally connected to this film is wonderful, and director Joe Crawford should be really proud of himself. And I do think one of the best things about the movie is Puss's character. This arc of him thinking he's invincible and then being brought down to earth is explored really well in the movie, especially his growing friendship with a little therapy dog. I thought that character was the scene stealer of the movie, and a genuine delight. Being set after the Shrek movies, The Last Wish featured more references to those than the first Puss in Boots movie, and those were nicely integrated into some of the flashback scenes. With the success of the film, I won't be surprised if another Puss in Boots movie is released at some point. However, the ending also hinted at the possibility of Shrek 5 happening. Chris Meledandri, who is an executive producer on The Last Wish, has been working on the development of another Shrek movie, which the cast is also reportedly on board with. Enough time has passed since Shrek Forever After that there's now new demand for another adventure starring the iconic ogre. As of this recording, I'm surprised there has not been an official announcement yet of when we'll see it, but I'm sure when Shrek 5 is released, it'll be another huge hit in the franchise. As for Puss in Boots, he has certainly proven himself one of the standout characters, and it's largely thanks to the way the filmmakers have transformed the fairytale feline into a swashbuckling adventurer, always ready to take out a sword and deal with whichever opponent he comes across. Antonio Banderas was the other major component, bringing both a suaveness and a surprising amount of depth to the role as he faces every obstacle that comes his way. See you next time.